No one thought that Hinterkaifeck, a small farm in the middle of rural Germany, would become one of the scariest places ever to visit. Once known for its beautiful views, the farm soon became the place that would make people shiver as they walked by it. It all went down in 1922 when 6 people were brutally murdered in the small farmhouse, an event so disturbing that it continues to baffle investigators and true crime enthusiasts alike. This is the story of Hinterkaifeck murders. Hinterkaifeck was once a home to 6 people who moved to the property back in 1886. Andreas Gruber, the head of the family, married Gisela Gruber, a widow. The two had their first daughter, Victoria Gruber, in 1887. She lived with her parents and grew up on the farm before she ended up marrying Carl Gabriel. Sadly, Carl was killed in World War I, leaving Victoria and her daughter, Gisela Gruber, all on her own. Later, Victoria gave birth to a son, Josef Gruber. However, the identity of his father remains unclear. Some thought that it was one of their neighbors, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, who was rumored to have a romantic relationship with Victoria. But he denied being the father and accused Victoria of having an incestual relationship with her father, Andreas. Eventually, Lorenz accepted being intimate with Victoria and became Josef's legal father. There was one more person living on the farm, Crescenz Rieger, the family's servant. Overall, the Grubers were described as friendly but also extremely reserved. Most of the time, they kept to themselves and had little interaction with their neighbors. The farm itself was divided into 3 parts: a living area for the family, a barn, and a machinery area. However, a small portion was later added to the farm to house an engine room, which was intended to cut hay for the cattle. Despite their quiet and isolated life, the family seemed to be doing fine until strange things started happening just days before the murders. On the morning of March 30th, Andreas came across fresh footprints leading to the farm's engine. Concerned, Andreas checked it out and found that the back door to the engine room had been broken down and someone had entered inside. Strangely, nothing was stolen. And so the Grubers simply assumed that someone had tried to break into the property but failed to gain access and abandoned their attempt. A logical conclusion, except how had they vanished without a trace? No exit footprints, no clues. Days later, something even stranger happened. The family found a copy of a magazine from Munich that had been dropped on their property. At first, Andreas assumed that the mailman had probably dropped the magazine off at their house by mistake, since no one in the family had either bought one or had a subscription. But when he asked about it, the mailman denied ever delivering such a publication. Confused, Andreas turned to his neighbors. Perhaps it had been meant for them. But they too had no idea where the magazine had come from. They weren't subscribed to any magazines, nor had they been missing one. Andreas was now troubled. Something or someone was clearly on the farm, leaving subtle signs. And that's not all. The family's neighbors reported Victoria fighting with an unknown man in the nearby cemetery. According to them, things between the two escalated, and Victoria slapped the man one time. Meanwhile, inside the house, unsettling sounds had begun to emerge. Victoria and the family's maid reported hearing some noises coming from their attic, soft thuds and footsteps echoing above them at night. The two asked Andreas to check, but he found nothing that might have been causing the strange noises. Unsettled, the maid quit her job. The maid was later interrogated and offered more insight into the strange stuff happening at the house. She said, "I would also like to mention that at this time, often at 12 o'clock in the night, my chamber door would suddenly open even though it was locked. I never saw anyone. After this happened almost every day at the same hour, I got scared and decided to give up my job." After she left, the family decided to hire a new maid, Maria Baumgartner. She arrived on her first day to work on March 31st, 1922, with her sister, who left shortly. and apparently, this was the last time someone saw Maria or the Gruber family alive. Maria's sister was also interrogated. She said, "I didn't notice anything in the yard. The farm seemed so incredibly lonely to me." The details of the horrific murder and what went down on the night of March 31st remain unclear. However, the following morning, the two kids of the Gruber family failed to show up at school. At first, no one gave it much thought. One of Kazilla's friends revealed that she had a reputation for missing school often. But when several days passed, concern began to build. One of their neighbors said, "I had noticed the extraordinary silence in Gabriel's house, in particular, the dog. Yet despite the silence, no one acted right away. It was, after all, an isolated farm. But then a hunting party passed by and noticed something strange. No smoke from the chimney. That was highly unusual for the time of year. The family had also missed Sunday church, something that had never happened before. Vendors and postmen began to report that no one had been seen on the farm for days. However, what really set people back was when the repairman, Albert Hoffner, arrived. The family had ordered him to come over to the farm and fix their engine, which had been causing trouble for them. And so, unaware of the horrors that unfolded on the farm, Albert came over on the scheduled day. What he found, or rather didn't find, set in motion one of the chilling discoveries in German history. Albert revealed, "When I got there, I wanted to go around the garden door, but I couldn't get in because it was locked. I then walked around the house to be able to get in from the back. Looked in through the kitchen window to see if I could see anyone, but I couldn't. I noticed the loud howling of the cows, but didn't take any notice of it since I have often heard that the farm owner is an oddball and didn't come home from the field all day. Since I couldn't see anyone in the house, I parked my bike and sat on it. I waited for about an hour, whistling from time to time to make my presence known. Eventually, I got tired and figured I should get to work or I wouldn't be able to finish, as I also had other repairs to do in that area. I went to the engine house and examined the latch and noticed that it was only locked with a small padlock. I pried it open. Once in the engine house, I immediately got to work. The repair took me about 4.5 hours and was finished around 3:30 p.m. Still, nobody in the family came, which is why I locked the motor house again and left. Concerned, Albert didn't keep quiet, a smart move. He started spreading the word about the eerie stillness at the Gruber farm. The rumors reached Lorenz, the neighbor and Joseph's alleged father. Once Lorenz found out that there had been no sign of the family, he sent his two sons over to check out what was going on. He said, "The fact that they were gone struck me as suspicious, and I thought I should look into it. I then instructed my two sons to go to the house and see if anybody was there. Shortly thereafter, my sons came back and stated that they saw no one and heard nothing except the cattle screaming in the barn. That's when Lorenz decided to see for himself. He went over with two neighbors, Michael Paul and Jakob Sigel, this time. Once they arrived at the soon-to-be crime scene, they found that every door was locked, except the one leading to the machine room, the same one Albert had used. Inside, it was empty, but what they found next would haunt them forever. The men forced their way into the barn, and amid the hay, a foot stuck out. And so they dug deeper. That's when the true horrors unfolded. 4 bodies, brutally slain and stacked beneath hay. They belonged to Victoria Gabriel, her 7-year-old daughter Kazilia, and her parents Andreas and Kazilia. Shocked, Lorenz rushed into the residential area, searching for his son. In the bedroom, he found Joseph still in his cot, his skull crushed. And then there was Maria, the maid. She was discovered lifeless in her bed, tucked under a blanket, as if someone had tried to cover up the scene. The group wasted no time. They alerted the mayor of nearby Grobem, who contacted authorities. The next day, the police arrived, and so began one of the strangest investigations. The results of the autopsy were chilling. all 6 victims had been killed due to multiple heavy blows to the head with a blunt object. This indicated that whoever did this used the tools present on the farm. The autopsies also revealed that most of the victims' skulls had been shattered or cracked, hinting that the murderer was mostly focused on smashing the heads of his victims rather than any of their other body parts. However, one detail stood out. Kazila was found with not only an injury to her head, but also a cut to her throat. What's more, self-inflicted scratch marks were also found on her throat, indicating that she tried to cover her wound with her hands. There were also tufts of hair found on her that were most likely her own. According to reports, she pulled out her own hair as she took her last breaths. The most horrifying part? The reports also revealed that her time of death was 3 hours after the torture had taken place, making her the last one to pass away. What's more, the police investigation revealed that a pickaxe had been found hanging on the wall. At first, everyone instantly thought that they had found the murder weapon. But since the weapon did not match the blunt force injuries, the police continued their investigation. Later on, they came across a gardening hoe in the attic above the main house, which was deemed the murder weapon. The police also believed that the murderers had tried to hide the bodies. 4 of the victims were hidden in the hay on the farm. Joseph was in his stroller, covered by a piece of clothing, and Myra was in her room, under a blanket. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, the police were never able to locate the culprit. A series of arrests were made over the years, but the authorities were unable to pin someone for sure. Karl Gabriel, Victoria's husband, who died in the war, was on top of the suspects' list. Many believe that one day, when he returned home, he found out about Victoria's affair and decided to kill everyone in the family. However, why would he wait for such a long time to kill them? And why would he kill his own daughter? However, some believe that Loren Schlittenbauer might have been the man behind the hideous crimes. He was one of the first people to find the bodies, and when he did, he acted strangely. He moved the bodies in search of his son. More importantly, he had a key to the house. So, was he trying to get rid of any possible evidence? And did he do it because he was jealous of the Gerbers? Some believe that a random drifter or a soldier may have killed the family. Someone who may have been passing by and was looking for a place to stay, but was turned away. And so, at the end of the day, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's most unnerving crimes. Was it a family member? Was it more than one killer? Was it someone who held a grudge against the Gruber family? It's unclear who could have committed such a hideous crime to this day. Who do you think was responsible? Let us know in the comment section below and make sure to check out the next video.